My girlfriend's family threw food at me at dinner and she just smiled. You should be lucky we even let you in this house, her father snickered as I wiped my face. I didn't say a word, but this morning he was screaming outside my door when he lost everything. Hey everyone. Before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and ensures you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. I never thought I'd be posting one of these, but here I am at 3 a.m., still replaying everything in my head. This happened last night, and I don't know where to go from here. I, 29M, have been dating Dahlia, 27F, for about 8 months. We met at a coffee shop downtown during my lunch break. I work in construction, supervising renovation projects, and she works in marketing. She's way out of my league. With her perfect smile and infectious laugh, things have been great between us. We go out for dinner, binge Netflix, take weekend trips when we can. I'm not rich, but I do all right. I've got my own apartment, a decent truck, and I'm good at what I do. Dahlia never seemed to mind my callous hands or when I showed up with paint in my hair. The weird thing was, after 8 months, I still hadn't met her family. Every time I brought it up, she'd have some excuse. They're busy, dad's traveling, mom's planning an event. I didn't push it because I was happy with what we had. Last week, she finally said her parents wanted to meet me. She told me to be myself, but then suggested I wear the navy button-down she bought me and my nice boots. I just wanted to make a good impression. I pulled up to their house in my Ford F-150 and immediately felt out of place. Their house wasn't a mansion, but it was in one of those picture-perfect neighborhoods. 2-story brick exterior, perfect landscaping. Dahlia met me at the door, looking nervous, whispering that her dad was traditional before leading me inside. Her father, Mick, didn't stand to greet me. He just looked me up and down from his armchair and called me the construction guy. I politely corrected him, construction supervisor, but his tone made it clear he didn't see a difference. Her mother, Queen, yes, really, did this fake air kiss and mentioned how Dahlia had told them so little about me. Her brother, Andy, came downstairs dressed like he'd stepped off a yacht, making a snide comment about me being good with my hands. I saw Dahlia tense up, but she didn't defend me. I calmly explained that I manage million-dollar projects and teams of skilled tradespeople. Mick immediately brought up Dahlia's ex, who apparently just made partner at his law firm. Queen mentioned his family's summer house in the Hamptons. Dahlia weakly asked them to stop, but that was it. When they asked about my family, I told them my dad was also in construction and my mom was a nurse. Queen acted like being a nurse was beneath them. I said I was proud of my mom because she saved countless lives. That's when Mick dropped all pretense, saying I should be lucky they even let me in this house because Dahlia usually has better taste. I looked at Dahlia, but she just stared at her plate. Then Andy flicked mashed potatoes at me. It hit me right on the cheek. Queen gasped with barely hidden amusement. Mick laughed outright, repeating that I should be lucky they even let me in this house. And Dahlia, she smiled. Not a full laugh, but a small, uncomfortable smile that hurt more than if she'd thrown the food herself. I stood up, thanked them for dinner, and left, despite Mick telling me not to be so sensitive because it was just a joke. Dahlia followed me to the door, saying they were just being protective and that I was overreacting. I told her I understood perfectly and left. My phone's been blowing up with texts from her. They're sorry. Please call me. We can work this out. But I'm not sure I want to work it out. Not after seeing that side of her. Not after realizing she's ashamed of who I am. I haven't responded yet. Part of me wants to end it now, but another part wonders if I'm throwing away something good because of one bad night. What I do know is that I won't forget Meek's face when he said those words or Dahlia's smile when her brother threw food at me. I didn't say a word when I left, but I'm not the type to just take this kind of disrespect lying down. I've been thinking all night about what to do next. Update. Thanks to everyone who commented on my last post. It's been 3 days since that disaster dinner at Dahlia's parents' house, and things have taken a weird turn. I blocked Dahlia after 37 texts and 12 calls yesterday morning. I unblocked her out of curiosity. She immediately messaged asking to meet in person, claiming she wasn't like her family. I agreed to meet at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. She arrived looking like she'd been crying. Part of me felt bad until I remembered her smile when her brother threw food at me. She apologized, saying she should have defended me, but was afraid of her father's expectations. She claimed they weren't usually this bad, and that her dad was stressed about work. His company was bidding on a huge development project called Riverside Heights. That caught my attention. Riverside Heights was the project my buddy Elliot had been talking about for months. He works in commercial real estate and knows all the big developments in town. I asked if her dad owned Malik Enterprises, and she confirmed it. We talked about our relationship. I told her I needed time to think. She cried, promised space, but hoped for another chance. I wasn't sure what I wanted, but something about Riverside Heights stuck in my mind. After she left, I called Elliot to ask about Mick Enterprises. He confirmed they were bidding on Riverside Heights, then warned me to steer clear, hinting at rumors about the company cutting corners and using cheaper materials than specified. That night, I couldn't sleep. Was Mick really cutting corners? That would explain his disdain for people who worked with their hands. He didn't respect the craft. The next morning, I texted contacts from previous jobs about Mick Enterprises. The responses painted a clear picture. Rushed workers, subpar materials, other contractors having to fix their work later. During lunch, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Dream, a former site manager for Mick Enterprises. My contact, Carlos, had told him I was asking questions. We met at a bar after work. Dream didn't waste time. Mick regularly ordered workers to use cheaper materials than contracted for. Inspections? They'd cover up evidence or distract inspectors. Dream never reported it because Mick had friends in the permit office and would blacklist him. When I mentioned Riverside Heights, Dream called it Mick's Hail Mary. The company was in serious trouble, and Mick had leveraged everything on getting that contract. He planned to cut even more corners than usual to make it profitable. On my way home, I drove past Mick Enterprises. Mick's black Mercedes was still in the parking lot. I waited and saw him emerge with another man, having what looked like a heated discussion before they drove off. Remembering Dahlia once mentioned her dad was finally going digital but complained about cloud storage, I tried logging into the company's Google Drive. After a few attempts, I tied Hampton 2023, combining Dahlia's ex's name and their vacation spot. Inside, I found 2 sets of plans for Riverside Heights, contract specs and actual build. The differences were significant. Cheaper materials, reduced safety features, thinner walls. I downloaded everything and logged out. This wasn't just cutting corners, this was fraud that could get people hurt. The next day at a convenience store, I overheard Mick bragging to the cashier about how Dahlia had finally come to her senses and dumped the loser construction supervisor. He laughed about the food incident and mentioned buying a boat once the Riverside contract came through. My blood ran cold. Had Dahlia told her family we broke up? After all her texts and tears, I texted Elliot that I had documents he needed to see about Riverside Heights. As I drove to his place, I wondered if Dahlia had really claimed to dump me or if Mick was just assuming. Either way, it didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that Mick was willing to put people at risk to save his failing business. I'm not usually the revenge type, but some people need to learn they can't treat others like garbage, especially when they're hiding something this serious. This wasn't just me being petty. This was about doing the right thing. The Riverside Committee needs to see this. He said he knew someone on the board. I nodded. It was time to show Mick what happens when you mess with the wrong construction guy. Update 2. The morning after showing Elliot those documents, I woke up to a text from Dahlia. Miss you. Can we talk again? I left it on read. My mind was elsewhere. Elliot's contact on the Riverside Heights Committee, a woman named Tide, agreed to meet us for coffee. I spent the morning organizing the files I downloaded, taking screenshots of the most damning comparisons between the promised materials and what Mick actually planned to use. While preparing, I noticed Dahlia had tagged me in an Instagram story, a throwback beach photo with the caption, "Missing this," and sad music. Her friends' comments were all supportive. You guys will work it out, and he'd be crazy to let you go. The disconnect was jarring. She was publicly pining for me, while her father told people she dumped me. Either she was putting on a show, or her family was even more dysfunctional than I thought. At the cafe, Tide examined my evidence without expression, though her knuckles whitened around her coffee cup. She admitted this wasn't the first time she'd heard concerns about Mick Enterprises, but no one had ever brought evidence before. When she asked why I was doing this, I briefly explained about dating Mick's daughter and discovering the fraud after they treated me poorly. She promised to bring it to the committee discreetly, but warned that Mick had friends in town. The next day, Dream texted, heard Malik freaking out, emergency meetings all morning. What did you do? I smiled. The committee must have contacted him already. Around noon, Dahlia showed up at my door, looking upset. She immediately accused me of sabotaging her dad's company, saying someone had sent the committee evidence about the cheaper materials. I deflected, but she pushed past me into my apartment, pleading that her dad would lose everything. I countered by mentioning how he told people she dumped me. She seemed genuinely confused, insisting she told them we were working things out. She admitted her dad created his own reality sometimes and can't admit when he's wrong. Her phone rang, it was him. After a brief conversation in the hallway, she returned, looking shaken. He was calling everyone, trying to find out who leaked the documents. She begged me to undo whatever I'd done for her sake. I looked at her, really seeing her for the first time, the side that would defend her father's fraud to protect the family image. I simply said, no. She left in tears. The following week, the committee suspended Meek's bid and began reviewing all his previous projects. Dream introduced me to other former employees with similar stories about Malik's Corner cutting corners. On Wednesday, Andy confronted me on the street. accusing me of trying to destroy his dad's company because my feelings got hurt. I calmly pointed out that his dad built that company by lying, and now it was catching up to him. Andy threatened me, saying his dad knows people, but I wasn't intimidated. That evening, someone posted about the investigation on the local Facebook group. The comments filled with stories about issues with Malik-built homes, leaky roofs, cracking foundations, electrical problems, of cutting corners were coming to light all at once. Thursday morning, Malik himself pounded on my door, looking haggard. I recorded his tirade before answering. He accused me of ruining him because of my fragile ego. I calmly suggested he keep his voice down since the neighbors had security cameras. He left with vague threats. By afternoon, the Riverside Committee had officially rejected Malik's bid and referred the matter to the county inspector's office. Elliot warned me to watch my back, as guys like Malik don't go down quietly. Friday evening, Queen showed up at my door, looking nothing like her usual polished self. Her hair was unstyled, her clothes wrinkled. I let her in, curious about what brought her here. "I won't pretend to like you," she said stiffly, "but I need to understand why you're doing this to our family." I explained that I wasn't doing anything to their family. Malik did this to himself by cutting corners and putting people at risk. She revealed they were facing financial ruin. The bank was calling in loans, clients were canceling contracts, and their reputation was destroyed. They might lose their house. For a moment I felt a twinge of guilt. Then I remembered how they treated me, throwing food and laughing, how Malik had built his lifestyle on fraud that could have hurt innocent people. "Actions have consequences," I said simply. As Queen left, she turned back with tears in her eyes. "Dahlia really did care about you. That's the saddest part of all this." That night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of Malik's company sign being taken down, with 3 words underneath: "Are you satisfied?" I didn't respond, but the answer was yes. Sometimes justice doesn't come from courts or police. Sometimes it comes from simply exposing the truth and letting people face the consequences of their own actions. Final update: I woke up at 5:43 a.m. to the sound of someone leaning on my doorbell. Not just pressing it, leaning on it, so it rang continuously like some kind of alarm. For a second, I thought it was part of my dream. Then I heard the shouting. Malik's voice was unmistakable, demanding I open the door, with every obscenity in the book. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and started recording. As I made my way to the door, through the peephole, I could see him swaying slightly. His normally perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive shirt wrinkled and partially untucked. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. My neighbor across the hall, an elderly woman named Mrs. Wilson, peeked out her door. I gave her an apologetic wave and mouthed, "I'll handle it," before opening my door just enough to see Mick properly. I asked calmly what time he thought it was. His eyes were bloodshot, and I could smell alcohol on his breath from 3 feet away. He laughed bitterly, saying he didn't have time anymore because I took it all. When I suggested he go home before I called the police, he exploded, saying he didn't have a home anymore. The bank had taken it that morning, 20 years of payments gone because of me. I kept recording as he ranted. Part of me felt a twinge of sympathy. No one wants to lose their home. But then I remembered how he treated me, how he'd built that home with money from cutting corners on buildings where real people lived. I pointed out that his situation wasn't because of me, but because he committed fraud and got caught. This set him off even more. He screamed about how everyone cuts corners in business, but only he got punished because some pathetic little man couldn't take a joke about his job. By now, more doors in the hallway were opening. Mrs. Wilson had her phone out, probably calling the building manager or the police. Malik noticed the growing audience and seemed to feed off it, turning to address them all, claiming I had hacked his company because his daughter broke up with me. He called me a criminal. I calmly stated that wasn't what happened, and we both knew it. He turned back to me, his face contorted with rage, threatening that he'd rebuild his company and make sure I never worked in town again. When I asked if he was threatening me, I made sure my phone caught every word he said. "It wasn't a threat, but a promise," he said. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper, listing everything he'd lost: his company, his house, his reputation. Then he added something surprising. His daughter wouldn't even talk to him now, saying he'd embarrassed her. That caught me off guard. Dahlia had been defending him just days ago. When I suggested he think about why that might be, something in him snapped. He lunged forward, trying to grab my phone, but I stepped back quickly. He demanded I give him the phone, accusing me of manufacturing more evidence. The elevator at the end of the hall dinged, and 2 police officers stepped out. Mrs. Wilson must have called them. Malik didn't seem to notice or care. The officers approached cautiously, asking him to calm down. He spun around, nearly losing his balance, bitterly noting how the police show up now, but weren't around when I was destroying his life. The officers exchanged a glance. One asked Malik to step away from my door, while the other asked if I wanted to press charges for the disturbance. I declined, saying he was just having a bad day, which prompted another bitter laugh from Malik, who insisted his life was over. As the officers guided him toward the elevator, explaining they'd give him a ride home, I heard him repeat that he didn't have a home anymore. I thanked Mrs. Wilson and my other neighbors for their concern and went back inside, my hands shaking slightly as I saved the video. I hadn't expected things to go this far. I'd wanted Malik to face consequences for his actions, but seeing him completely broken down like that was unsettling. I made coffee and tried to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed with a text from Elliot, asking if I was okay, saying he'd heard Malik lost his house. News travels fast in a small town. I texted back that I was fine, just had an early morning visitor. Elliot called immediately, and I filled him in on Malik's meltdown. He warned me to be careful, saying desperate people do desperate things. As I was getting ready for work, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, thinking it might be another member of Dahlia's family, but curiosity got the better of me. It was Andy, Dahlia's brother. His tone was completely different from our last encounter. Defeated, maybe even scared. He wanted to meet in person, saying it was about Dahlia and that she wasn't doing well. Despite my reservations, I agreed to meet him during my lunch break at a coffee shop on Main Street, a public place with plenty of people around. The morning dragged by, my mind replaying Malik's meltdown and wondering what Andy wanted to tell me about Dahlia. When I arrived at the coffee shop, Andy was already there, hunched over a cup, looking nothing like the arrogant guy who'd thrown food at me. His designer clothes had been replaced with a plain t-shirt and jeans. He'd lost weight, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. He started by apologizing for the dinner incident and his behavior. He explained how quickly things had fallen apart. His dad losing the company, the bank taking their house that morning, his mom staying with her sister, and him crashing on a friend's couch. When I asked about Dahlia, he revealed she was staying at a motel on the edge of town and wouldn't talk to any of them. She blamed their dad for everything, but also herself for not standing up to him sooner. Apparently, she was talking about leaving town and starting over somewhere else. I wasn't sure how to feel about that. Part of me still cared about Dahlia, but another part wondered if this was just another manipulation tactic from her family. When I asked why he was telling me this, Andy admitted he thought she really loved me, and I might be the only one who could talk some sense into her about not throwing her life away because of their dad's mistakes. He slid a piece of paper across the table with an address and room number written on it. I pocketed it without committing to anything and asked why the sudden change of heart, reminding him that just last week he was threatening me. Andy looked down at his coffee and confessed that last week he still believed his dad was invincible, that he'd fix everything somehow. But seeing him completely fall apart had been like seeing him clearly for the first time. He didn't want to end up like his father. I left the coffee shop with mixed feelings. Was I being played, or was Andy genuinely concerned about his sister? Like today's story? A super thanks helps me keep bringing you the best daily content. Your support means I can keep doing what I love. Thanks for being awesome.